It's over. Nancy Sidley's verdict. After another disastrous weekend, proving that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are on edge, with even their enemies at the Daily Mail reporting on new strains in the marriage. So yes, Harry and Meghan stepped out separately in New York.
It's finally happening. The truth is pushing its way out into the open. Prince Harry has been spotted without his wedding ring for the first time, and people are talking non-stop. A love story that once looked like a modern fairy tale is now tangled up in drama and controversy. Meghan is staying completely quiet, not a word, while Harry is reportedly making secret calls to King Charles and Prince William. Is this a desperate move? Is the so-called prodigal son trying to make things right and asking the royal family for protection? The cracks in Harry's sudden attempt to fix everything are impossible to ignore, and this situation is getting deeper by the day. Will William even hear him out, let alone forgive him? For Harry, the release of these documents didn't just cause a simple argument at home. It shook his entire mindset. For years, nearly a decade, he truly believed he was saving someone who had been treated unfairly, someone misunderstood and pushed aside by the royal system. He was convinced he was rewriting history, protecting Meghan from the same painful fate his mother, Princess Diana, faced.
He is having a breakdown in real time. We see it. He is completely unable to hide the totally complex feelings that come to the fore every time he is in public with Meghan Markle. In some ways, he does despise his wife. It's not about love, it's not about affection, it's about ownership, and it's about showing the world who is in control, and he can't stand that.
That belief ran deep. But when details from the Engelson dossier started slipping through private legal channels, everything began to change. The reality hitting him now is far more intense than any headline or rumor ever was. Now he's stuck with a heavy question. What if everything he believed wasn't the full truth? What if the person he gave up everything for wasn't just a victim, but someone playing a much bigger, long-term game? That thought alone is enough to shake anyone. By late March 2026, the tension inside their Montecito estate reportedly reached another level. Staff described explosive confrontations, but not the emotional kind. These were cold, sharp, almost like legal cross-examinations happening behind closed doors. Harry, clearly searching for answers, started demanding full transparency. Every missing detail, every sealed record from Meghan's past.
Going their separate ways. Harry went one way, Meghan went the other way. I mean, it was not a huge surprise, given the barely simmering tension being able to keep under the surface at the Humanitarian of the Year Awards. I still laugh at that on Friday night. So here was Meghan, soloed.
One detail stood out and kept coming up, the so-called Northwestern gap. For years, there had been quiet whispers online about a short-lived legal union during Meghan's time at Northwestern University back in 2003. People claimed it was quickly annulled and wiped from records through powerful legal moves. Before, Harry brushed all that off as nonsense talk. But now, the situation feels very different. New information suggests there may have been gaps in the 2017 vetting process by MI5 and MI6. That realization is hitting hard. Reports say Harry is now questioning whether he pushed the royal household to skip key security checks, all for a past that may not have been fully clear to him at the time. And now, his actions are speaking louder than anything else. In a move that shocked even those close to them, Harry has started pulling away, physically and emotionally.
Ready?
And yet, as Royally Sage pointed out, he never leaves. He never leaves because he wants her to attack his family.
For the past 3 weeks, he's reportedly been staying in separate guest quarters or inside a high-security wing of a luxury hotel nearby. That shared home that once symbolized everything, it's no longer the same. But the biggest signal of all is impossible to miss. People close to Harry noticed something major. His wedding ring is gone. That gold band he wore every single day since 2018 has disappeared. This isn't a mistake or something small. It's a quiet but powerful message from a man who may feel like the life he believed in wasn't real at all. Harry's current state. People close to him say it's nothing short of a complete mental freeze, like everything hit him all at once and he can't move past it. This is a man who cut off everything behind him, his family ties, his military identity, even the country he once called home, only to now feel like the ground under his feet was never solid to begin with. That realization is hitting hard. The idea that he might have been caught up in something far more calculated instead of a genuine partnership has left him feeling completely alone. He's not battling headlines or the press anymore. That fight is over. Now it's internal, and it's heavy. He's dealing with the consequences of his own decisions, and there's no easy way out of that. As reports say, the dossier has made its way to the king. Harry's focus has clearly shifted.
The one man who never leaves her side is Marcus Anderson. As Brittany of the Royal News Network pointed out, I'm sure Harry will say one day that there were 3 of them in their marriage: Harry, Meghan, and Marcus Anderson. Why Marcus is always there is super weird. Does Meghan always need her best friend there for moral support? It's just a bit bizarre.
This isn't about defending anything publicly anymore. It's about protecting himself privately. He's no longer standing guard for Meghan. Instead, he's trying to reconnect with the version of himself he feels he lost along the way. This situation has gone way beyond a relationship issue. It's starting to look like the unraveling of everything tied to the Sussex name and the twist. It's being driven by Harry himself, the same person who once backed it all without hesitation. Now it seems like he's opening his eyes, and the first thing he's searching for is an exit. What makes this even more intense is how it all started falling apart, not from outside pressure, but from something buried deep in the past. By mid-April 2026, Harry reportedly became fixated on a very specific time period, years before any royal connection existed. His attention locked onto 2003 and Meghan's time at Northwestern University, and that focus only grew stronger. For years he believed in a simple story, a determined woman building her life step by step, rising through challenges to reach global recognition. That narrative made sense to him, and he stood by it. But now, new claims tied to the Escalating dossier are raising serious questions. There's talk of a chapter from that time that was never fully visible, something that may have been legally resolved and quietly removed from public records.
Brittany, this New York trip has just been a disaster if this was a couple intending to prove to the world that they were united, because they look anything but.
They definitely do, Dan. Harry and Meghan are just on completely separate ends of various issues. And it was just hard to ignore some of the tension, some of the mask dropping, and how they really didn't interact with each other very much in some ways. And of course, this was to put on a united front, show their relationship was on a high or whatever. But I always feel like we get anything but. And the descent happened last year, or at least it started last year. And I think it's continuing to go. And Meghan doing her own thing and Harry doing his own thing. Well, I mean, couples do that. But for 2 people who used to call themselves salt and pepper and had to do everything together, once you stop doing that, people are going to begin to talk.
This wasn't just about a brief moment in the past. It carried weight that now feels impossible to ignore. The idea that legal steps could have been taken to clear records and reset a public image is something Harry is reportedly struggling to process. When he looks back at 2017, those fast-moving decisions don't feel the same anymore. They come with doubt. Back then, he strongly pushed for things to move quickly. He challenged delays, questioned deeper reviews, and urged officials, including MI5 and MI6, to speed up their checks. At the time, he saw it as standing up for someone he cared about. But now, that same urgency is being re-examined under a completely different light, and it's leaving him with more questions than answers. Now he's facing a harsh realization. His own intense loyalty may have been the exact thing that kept certain truths buried. That protective anger he once showed is now being looked at in a completely different way, and it's shaking him. The idea that he might have unknowingly played a role in hiding something major has sent Harry into a spiral of reactions he can't seem to control. Inside the polished, picture-perfect halls of the Montecito mansion, things are no longer calm. The silence feels heavy, constantly broken by Harry pushing for answers again and again. He's not sitting back anymore. People close to the situation describe him surrounded by printed timelines, legal notes and documents, pressing Meghan to explain gaps between her public story and other records linked to Trevor Engelson. This isn't casual conversation. It's intense, direct, and impossible to ignore. What hits him the hardest is what he believes he put on the line. He stood against his own family, challenged long-standing systems, and defended a version of events that now feels uncertain. If the foundation of that story wasn't fully accurate, then everything built on top of it starts to feel unstable. That's where the real weight of this situation comes in. His response has been to pull back, completely. Reports say he's been isolating himself, spending long hours alone in high-end hotel suites in Santa Barbara, away from familiar faces and daily routines. During that time, he's been quietly meeting with private investigators and legal experts.
Had a post-divorce plan that was being instigated very early on because I think she thought it would have happened by now. But he's in such a bad way already. I mean, can it really get any worse? Maybe, yes, given what that post-divorce book could contain.
Trying to sort through details that are now raising serious questions. He's focused on understanding Meghan's early years in a way that goes far beyond surface-level information. It's detailed, almost investigative work, the kind of process that usually would have been handled long ago. That's part of what's bothering him most. There's a growing concern that steps which should have been taken in the past may have been rushed or overlooked, and that thought creates a tough cycle to sit with. It's not just about trust in someone else, it's also about questioning his own decisions. The possibility that he pushed things forward too quickly is something he's now forced to confront. That pressure is building fast. Meanwhile, everything around them is shifting. The image of unity they once showed to the world is fading quickly. Harry is no longer appearing beside Meghan at major events, brand launches, or high-profile gatherings. That absence is loud and people are noticing. Instead, he's constantly on the move, switching locations, staying out of sight, and having long, quiet phone calls with legal professionals back in London. He's trying to understand how royal systems of trust actually work, and what it really means when that trust is questioned at its core. The materials connected to the Engelson dossier reportedly go beyond simple claims. They point to a life with layers, details, timelines, and identities that don't fully match the public narrative. For Harry, the hardest part isn't just what he's learning. It's how it reflects back on him. For years, he openly challenged his father, King Charles, and his brother William, telling them they were wrong and out of touch. He believed they were stuck in outdated thinking and couldn't accept change.
Is that it's the Daily Mail going there. It is the Daily Mail, which has been trying to curry favour with Harry and Meghan for so long, finally admitting there are huge troubles in the marriage. And there are also huge troubles in the marriage because of the massive troubles with Meghan's failing business.
But now, that perspective is shifting fast. Looking at everything in front of him, he's starting to see their caution in a completely new light. At this point, Harry is living in what feels like both personal and professional distance from everything he once stood for. The independence he chased in America is starting to feel different. Less like freedom, and more like something complicated, built on pieces he's only now beginning to question. He walked away from everything, his role, his roots, his entire world, for what he thought was a perfect love story. But now it's starting to feel like that story had a completely different script behind the scenes. As April 2026 came to a close, Harry's silence stopped looking like a need for privacy. It started to look like something deeper, a man staying quiet because he's no longer sure what parts of his life were ever real. The mission he once held onto so tightly, protecting Meghan at all costs, is over. That chapter has closed. Now, the focus has flipped entirely. It's about facing the consequences of choices he made and trying to protect himself from the fallout. As everything around the Sussex marriage continues to shift under the California spotlight, the emotional weight on Harry has grown heavier. What started as shock is now turning into a serious internal conflict. While questions about past records and legal gaps sparked his doubts, there's said to be something even more intense buried in the Engelson dossier, something that hit him on a personal level. Reports claim there are deeply sensitive allegations that go far beyond paperwork, striking at the core of who Harry is and what he believes in. For years, there have been online rumors about a hidden chapter from Meghan's early life, including claims involving a child. These stories were often dismissed as speculation with no proof. But now, according to what's being said, those claims have resurfaced in a more serious context, becoming part of what Harry is now being forced to examine closely. That shift, from rumor to something he feels he has to personally verify, is what's making this so overwhelming. This hits especially hard for him. Harry's life has been shaped by loss, by family struggles, and by his strong stance on protecting children and breaking cycles of pain. Everything he has publicly stood for, through interviews, books, and documentaries, has centered around being a better parent and creating a different future for his own kids, Archie and Lilibet. That belief system is now being shaken in a way that feels deeply personal. He once believed he had found someone who shared those same values. In his eyes, Meghan represented warmth, care, and emotional strength, the complete opposite of the distant environment he often spoke about growing up in. He saw her as someone who would always put family first, no matter what. But now, the information reportedly surfacing in early May 2026 is raising difficult questions. There are claims pointing to decisions made many years ago, during a time when career goals were a major focus. These claims are serious, and they're being treated with that level of weight. For Harry, even the possibility of something like this challenges everything he thought he knew. If any part of it were proven true, it wouldn't just be a personal issue. It would completely change how he sees the past and the choices tied to it. The idea that something important could have been kept hidden is what's hitting him the hardest. Those close to the situation say his reaction has been intense and deeply internal. Instead of speaking out, he's pulled back almost completely, processing everything on his own. It's not loud or explosive, it's quiet, heavy, and difficult to ignore. Harry isn't just angry anymore. This has turned into something much deeper. He's grieving. Not just the relationship, but the version of reality he believed in for years. He's mourning the woman he thought he knew and the sense of moral certainty he carried since 2020. That shift is Pari, and it's hitting him from every direction. Reports say that during one of their most intense private arguments, his voice echoed through the Montecito estate, demanding answers, questioning whether the empathy Meghan showed him early on was genuine or something carefully calculated. There's a growing fixation that won't leave him alone. He reportedly believes his emotional vulnerability may have made him an easy target, that his well-known need for comfort and connection was used to secure his loyalty. That thought alone is enough to shake anyone, and it's pushing him into action. Harry has allegedly brought in a separate group of private investigators, directing them to dig into the names, dates, and details mentioned in the dossier, searching for any connections that might have been hidden or removed over time. This isn't just curiosity, it's personal. He's stuck on the idea that while he was publicly defending Meghan and carrying his own emotional scars, there may have been parts of her past that didn't align with everything they stood for together. That contrast is what's weighing on him the most. He reportedly feels like he may have unknowingly played a role in presenting a story to the world that doesn't fully match reality. At this point, his isolation is impossible to ignore. He's no longer showing up at the elite social spots or the high-profile charity events that once defined their life in California. That presence is gone. Instead, he's spending long nights in the guest wing, surrounded by old photos of Princess Diana, trying to make sense of everything. The comparison that once gave him comfort now feels complicated, even painful.
Yes, you cannot ignore the collapse of As Ever. Obviously, With Love, Meghan too would have been a huge blow to Meghan's ego. And so because of all these failures, Meghan is trying even harder to make things succeed. And of course, the Paris trip was part of that. She desperately wanted to be part of that elite fashion world, and she sort of invited herself. And we end up with this scenario where she looks entirely tone deaf, filming a video around the streets of Paris where her mother-in-law was tragically died. And so I can imagine Harry was quite furious about that in many ways. It was just so thoughtless of Meghan. But As the desperation becomes more intense, we'll definitely be seeing more of this because Meghan just has no chill factor whatsoever. She has no ability to rein herself in, and because of that, people generally don't like her. She turns people off.
He's reportedly struggling with how this reflects on his mother's legacy. For years, he spoke about her values and used her story as a foundation for his own decisions. Now he's questioning whether those comparisons were misplaced, and that realization is difficult to sit with. At the same time, he's starting to reassess his family in a way he didn't before. The actions of Prince William and King Charles, once seen as rigid or unfair, are now being viewed through a different lens. There's a growing sense that their caution may have come from responsibility, not resistance. That change in perspective is significant. Behind the scenes, Harry is said to be in constant contact with legal advisors in the UK. But this isn't about making a public return. It's about understanding where he stands personally, what this all means for him, and what consequences could come next. The situation is no longer just emotional, it's becoming something much bigger. He gave up a kingdom for what he believed was a dream, only to wake up and feel like he's stuck in a nightmare he can't escape. That realization is hitting with full force. As Harry looks around at his life in Montecito, the damage feels impossible to ignore. And the biggest shock, it's not the press or the palace he's worried about anymore. It's what may have been hidden inside his own world all along. The fairy tale image is gone, completely shattered. In its place is something much colder, a non-stop search for answers that's becoming overwhelming. And now, as the pressure builds, Harry is reportedly making quiet but serious moves that signal the biggest shift yet in his relationship. This isn't small distance. It's a major break from everything they built since leaving royal life in 2020. By early May 2026, things had clearly escalated. Harry moved past just questioning things privately and started reaching outward, to the very institution he once pushed away. Reports suggest he's opened secure behind-the-scenes communication with senior figures at Buckingham Palace. Even more surprising, there are said to be direct lines to Prince William's private office. These aren't casual check-ins or attempts to smooth things over for appearances. Not even close. These are intense, urgent conversations from someone who feels like he's been missing key pieces of the puzzle for years. The focus of these talks is extremely specific. What really happened during the 2017 background checks? That question is now at the center of everything. What did the intelligence services actually find? And why does he feel like he never got the full picture? Those questions are sticking with him, and they're not going away anytime soon. Insiders claim Harry has also been reconnecting with a small circle of former aides, people he trusts and who stayed loyal even after his exit. Through those late-night conversations, he's trying to piece together what was originally documented before his wedding at St. George's Chapel. It's detailed, serious, and far from public view. There's also a growing concern that his own actions back then may have influenced how things were handled. His push to move quickly, along with strong objections to delays, might have created pressure that caused certain concerns to be softened or left unexplored. That possibility is weighing on him heavily, and in a move that says everything about where his trust stands right now, Harry has reportedly stepped away from his California-based legal team entirely. He's no longer relying on the usual setup around Archewell. Instead, he's turned to a specialized legal firm in London, one that deals with complex international and royal-related matters. That decision alone shows just how serious this situation has become. This move has reportedly blown everything wide open inside the Sussex household. Meghan and her team are said to be realizing in real time that they no longer have control over Harry, neither his decisions nor his story. And that shift, it's creating serious tension. What used to be a united front now feels more like a quiet standoff inside that massive 16-bedroom mansion. Harry is no longer sharing his schedule, his plans, or even who he's speaking to. That level of distance is impossible to ignore. Staff have reportedly seen him walking the grounds late at night or early in the morning, holding a second encrypted phone, speaking in low, urgent tones to contacts in completely different time zones. It's secretive, it's intense, and it's raising eyebrows everywhere. One of the clearest public signs of this split is showing up in plain sight. Harry has been missing from the high-profile events that were supposed to define their next chapter.
Harry definitely feels left in the dust. He doesn't like this Hollywood world. And yeah, that's going to lead to tensions and I'm sure money is a huge, huge factor in that as well.
Well, of course, because from what I'm told, he was absolutely disgusted, not just by the display in Paris, but also the display in New York over the weekend, Brittany. I mean, as Nancy Sidley pointed out, Meghan Markle is so afraid for her safety and security that she made sure to do a pap walk of her walking into the Carlisle Hotel where she is staying in New York. And then Royal Thoughts posted this from one of the articles in the Mail. Markle seen at luxury Carlisle Hotel where rooms can go for $1,900 a night before accepting the humanitarian award, and she wore a suit worth nearly £6,000, jewellery worth more than £238,000.
Those polished, high-visibility appearances. He's not there anymore. While Meghan continues moving forward with her brand and media projects, Harry has quietly disappeared from that picture. The contrast is sharp. He used to be right there, supporting, appearing, speaking out. Now, nothing. Insiders claim he has refused to take part in any more filming or promotional work tied to their joint ventures. His reason is simple but serious. He reportedly doesn't want to represent a version of his life that no longer feels real to him. That decision isn't just personal, it hits hard financially and strategically. The entire Sussex brand has been built around their partnership, their image as a strong, united couple. Without that, the foundation starts to shake. This isn't just tension behind closed doors, it's something that could affect everything they've built. At the same time, those quiet connections Harry has been making with London carry serious emotional weight. Reaching out to Prince William especially is being seen as a major moment. It's not loud or public, but it says a lot. It suggests he may now be looking at past warnings in a completely different way, less as criticism and more as something grounded in experience and responsibility. Sources say Harry is approaching this with a level of humility that hasn't been seen before. He's asking for full transparency, any records, any details connected to the Engelson dossier. This isn't about reclaiming status, it's about understanding what's real and what isn't. That internal shift is also showing up in his everyday life. Locals in Montecito have reportedly spotted him alone more often, quiet dinners, solo drives along the coast, staying far from the usual attention. It's a noticeable change. He seems to be stepping away from the spotlight and trying to reconnect with a simpler version of himself. And then there's the detail people can't stop noticing: his missing wedding ring. What once symbolized commitment and defiance is now gone, and it hasn't come back. That absence feels intentional, like a quiet but powerful statement about where things stand now. As King Charles prepares to review the full scope of the claims reportedly presented by Trevor Engelson's legal team, Harry's position appears to be shifting in a big way. He's no longer standing side by side in defense. Instead, he seems to be separating himself, framing his role as someone trying to make sense of a situation that has become far more complicated than he ever expected. Harry is now bracing himself for something he never thought he'd face: the possibility that his entire marriage was built on carefully managed secrets. That idea alone is enough to shake everything, and now he's turning back to the one place he once walked away from, the crown, because he believes it may be the only place left that can give him clear, verified answers. This isn't about changing the monarchy anymore, not even close. This is about survival. It's about finding a way back to a system he once rejected, after realizing that the freedom he chased might not have been what it seemed, even more intense.
He hates the cameras, and yet she drags him in front of them all the time because she wants them. She desperately wants all of this. She would be on red carpets all the time if she could. That's definitely where Meghan Markle wants to be, and that's not where really Harry wants to be. But they have to play this game. They have to basically buy awards in order to feel like they have like either a bit of authority or a bit of prestige in the space that they're in. They're always picking up these sort of meaningless awards, and it's all really for nothing. And I think Harry thought this Hollywood life in America would be very, very different than how it ended up. And you have the Paris thing on top of it. And I'm sure the money is not coming in the way it used to.
The growing feeling that the person he made that journey with may not be who he thought at all. That bridge to London he once burned so publicly, it's now being rebuilt, piece by piece, and fast. And the person leading that effort is Harry himself. What started as a personal crisis has now crossed into something far bigger, legal territory that doesn't bend for emotion. By the second week of May 2026, the situation had escalated to a whole new level. Harry was forced to face a tough reality. His marriage isn't just personal, it's tied to legal structures connected to the British state. As details from the Engelson dossier reportedly reached top legal figures in London, everything became sharper, clearer, and far more serious. That clarity has changed how he sees everything. The man who once believed he was standing up for love is now questioning whether he was unknowingly part of something that broke long-standing royal rules. That shift is huge. At the center of this storm is one major issue: legal legitimacy. Harry is reportedly being advised that if claims about undisclosed past legal ties or missing records were ever proven true, it could raise serious questions about the validity of his marriage under royal law. That's not small, that's massive. This is where emotion collides with structure. For weeks, Harry has been isolating himself, diving into intense, detailed conversations with constitutional experts. These aren't quick chats. They're long, heavy sessions focused on royal law, historical rules, and exactly what's required when it comes to marriages connected to the line of succession. And now even his wedding day is being re-examined. That moment at St. George's Chapel, once seen as a major milestone, is now being looked at through a completely different lens. There's a growing sense of doubt, with questions about whether everything presented at the time was fully transparent. That thought alone changes everything. All of this pressure has shifted something in Harry. The emotional reactions are cooling, replaced by something sharper: focus, determination, and a need for answers. According to reports, this all came to a head during a tense, private confrontation inside the Montecito estate. In that moment, Harry is said to have laid everything out, bringing forward specific legal definitions and asking direct, serious questions about what it all means. Not just for him, but for their future and for their children. The weight of that conversation, heavy, immediate, and impossible to ignore. Harry isn't operating from emotion anymore. That version of him is gone. What's taken over now is something much colder and more focused. He's reportedly driven by one thing: getting clear, factual answers. There's a growing fixation on the idea that the vetting process he once pushed aside might have been the very thing that could have prevented all of this. That realization, it's hitting hard. As he digs deeper into the legal side of things, another layer of concern has started to surface. Reports tied to the dossier point to patterns in Meghan's early career that are now being questioned. These aren't being framed as simple social connections anymore. There's a growing narrative that some of these associations could raise concerns at a higher level, especially when viewed through the lens of royal expectations and security. That shift in perspective is creating a heavy sense of regret. Harry is said to have expressed real discomfort in conversations with contacts in London, reflecting on how strongly he pushed back in the past. At the time, he challenged criticism and defended his position with intensity. Now he's reportedly rethinking those moments and wondering if people he opposed were acting MTVKH duty rather than bias. That change in thinking is not easy to process. There's also talk that Harry feels he may have played a role in protecting a version of events that didn't fully match reality. That idea, that he stood as a shield for something he didn't completely understand, is weighing on him more with each passing day. In what many are calling a major turning point, Harry is reportedly beginning to consider the structure of a permanent legal separation. The focus isn't on public image anymore, it's on creating a path forward that allows him to step back into a more private life, possibly under the protection of the king. That's a huge shift from where things once stood. The lifestyle that once defined his post-royal chapter, it no longer seems to hold any value for him. The media deals, the brand partnerships, the celebrity circles, he's said to be pulling away from all of it, completely. Part of what's driving that change is the reported review of archived material connected to Meghan's past projects.
And that's going to cause tensions and strain in the marriage because I think they want very different things out of life. And I think Harry was sold a bill of goods by Meghan, and he's found out that most of that wasn't ever really true. And that constant tension between the delusions and reality, I'm sure, caused a lot of frictions within their relationship.
Including extensive digital content and early writings. These records are said to present a much more detailed and strategic version of her early ambitions, something Harry is only now beginning to fully process. That discovery has shaken whatever trust was left. There's a growing feeling that the life he built in America may not have unfolded as naturally as he once believed. That thought alone is enough to change everything. Now, his daily routine reflects that shift. He's often seen alone, early morning walks along the beach, far from attention, keeping distance from the spotlight. The energy is different, quieter, heavier. Communication with the Sussex PR team has reportedly stopped altogether, leaving them trying to explain his absence from Meghan's latest projects. But from Harry's side, the message seems clear. He's no longer willing to play a role in something he doesn't believe in. At this point, everything feels like it's on pause. He's waiting, watching, and bracing for what comes next, especially as decisions from the king could shape what his future looks like from here. Harry isn't trying to hold on to anything anymore. Not the titles, not the status, not even the image he once fought so hard to protect. Reports suggest he's ready to accept whatever consequences come from the crown, as long as he can finally hold on to something real, his own truth. That shift says everything. The man who once stood firm in defense of his choices is now stepping back, realizing the life he built may not have been as solid as it seemed. There's a strong sense that he's letting go completely. The fight is over. As the pressure builds, Harry appears to be preparing himself for a full surrender, believing that losing everything on the surface might be the only way to reconnect with who he really is underneath it all. As May 2026 moves toward its final weeks, the energy around him has completely changed. The bold, outspoken figure people once saw has quieted down, replaced by someone more reflective, more reserved. The Montecito mansion, once seen as a symbol of independence and a fresh start, now feels like the setting of something slowly falling apart. Harry has reportedly reached the end of his search for answers about the past. And what he believes he's found has brought a level of clarity that's hard to ignore. Information tied to the Engelson dossier, along with detailed digital records from earlier years, has created a picture that, in his view, can't be explained away or reshaped. At this point, he's no longer torn between different sides. That internal battle has settled. What's left is acceptance of what he believes to be the truth, no matter how difficult it is to face. Inside the household, the atmosphere is described as distant and tense. Harry has stepped away entirely from Archewell's operations, both business and charity. He now reportedly sees those projects as tied to a version of events he no longer stands behind. That's a major break from everything he helped build. In conversations with his trusted contacts in London, Harry is said to have described this period as waking up from a long, confusing chapter of his life. Looking back, he feels many of his biggest decisions were made based on information he now questions. That realization carries weight, not just personally, but in how it affected those closest to him. There's also a growing sense of regret when it comes to his family. His relationship with Prince William and King Charles is being re-examined through a completely different lens. What once felt like opposition now looks, in his eyes, more like caution that he didn't fully understand at the time. In what many see as the final step in this unfolding situation, Harry has reportedly written a personal letter to the king, by hand. And what stands out most? He's not trying to justify anything. He's not asking for support or making demands. Instead, this appears to be something far more personal, a quiet, serious message that could shape what happens next. Instead of defending himself, Harry is reportedly doing something no one expected. He's owning it all. A full, direct apology, not just personal, but institutional, admitting that his pressure may have pushed the palace to rush or bypass critical security checks tied to his marriage. That's a massive shift, and it doesn't stop there. He's also made it clear, if any of the serious claims about hidden legal history or undisclosed details are proven true, he won't fight back against any decision made by the Crown or even Parliament. No resistance, no battle, just acceptance. That level of accountability is rare, and it's changing everything. Harry is said to be ready to face whatever comes next, even if it means losing titles, status, and everything tied to that life.
She wasn't a good actress. She didn't have a particular level of talent, and things just weren't going to happen for her. And Harry was her meal ticket in this world. Unfortunately for her, he doesn't like it. And so she never, I don't think, fully calculated that into her mind. And he's gone along with a lot, I think, for her. But I do believe he absolutely hates this, and she could not love it more. And They try to act all loved up, but as soon as the cameras are off, a different side always emerges because everything is an act. Just like Meghan trying to do the Zoolander poses and the smirks and everything, the pouty lips in France was as fake as her grinning constantly. All of it is fake, and it just comes across insanely so.
At this point, he reportedly prefers a quiet, stripped-down reality in the UK over what he now sees as a polished but uncomfortable life in California. That contrast couldn't be sharper. This mindset has led to a total pullback from public life. He hasn't been seen with Meghan in over a month, and he's reportedly declined every request to join her upcoming promotional tours. That absence is loud. Neighbors say they've spotted him sitting alone along the cliffs, staring out over the Pacific, looking like someone deep in thought. Someone processing a major loss, not just of a relationship, but of identity. There's also a symbolic change that hasn't gone unnoticed. In private messages and letters, Harry has reportedly stopped using his royal titles altogether. He's signing off simply as Harry. That small detail carries weight. It signals a return to something more personal, more grounded and far removed from the image that once defined him. Back in the UK, things are quietly moving into place. Prince William may not be speaking publicly, but behind the scenes, his office is said to be working closely with legal teams to prepare for what could come next. If Harry does return, it won't be rushed. It will be handled carefully, with security and privacy at the center of it all. The relationship between the brothers is still delicate, no question about that. But there's a shared priority now, protecting the institution from further damage. That common ground is starting to rebuild a connection, even if it's cautious and limited. Harry is no longer being seen as someone pushing against the system, but as someone trying to find his way back after everything unraveled. By the end of May 2026, it's clear this chapter is closing. The story that once grabbed global attention, built on fame, influence, and massive deals, is now falling apart under pressure. And for Harry, this journey, from prince to outsider to someone seeking redemption, has come at a serious personal cost. He's now looking at his mother's legacy in a completely different light. What once guided him is now being re-examined, and he's determined to separate truth from emotion. Walking away from everything tied to this chapter, he reportedly believes he's finally aligning himself with what really matters: honesty, accountability, and facing reality head-on. The future he's preparing for isn't flashy or public. It's quiet, private, and far from the spotlight. And in his eyes, the hardest thing he's had to do wasn't leaving the monarchy. It's admitting he may have been wrong all along. The Montecito illusion, it's over. Completely done. If you've been following this story, you already know how intense it's been. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this is truly the end, or is there more still to come? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss what happens next.